Hi guys, hope you're all doing awesome. Julie's working on a little fine touch on her end for IG Live. And then we will get started on the 6-week wellness nutrition challenge.
All right, trying to figure out a good angle. I think that might do.
Makes us look good?
Yeah, you look good.
That beard looks pretty good.
You don't have long hair right now someplace. You're not in COVID.
This is true. Oh, come on. My phone's just nuts. Okay, this is the most I can do.
All right. All right, well, let's talk about this wellness challenge. And I think the best way to start with it is to talk about wellness, right? And talking about the textbook definition of wellness, right? I'll read it out loud. The state of being in good health, especially as an actively pursued goal, right? So this is the textbook definition for wellness. But what is the, or how do you define wellness, Paul?
For me, I go through, and it's a personal measuring stick. It's what I go through on a daily or a weekly and figure out where I am in a current state of well-being. And those are, looking at my diet, similar to what our pillars are. Looking at my diet, look at my exercise, look at my sleep, look at my personal time is a big one for me with kids and the gym. And then my stress and anxiety level is a large one for me on just how do I find balance. But when I go through what it is, it's my personal measuring stick of where am I at, and then how do I clean it up or improve it. But that's simple.
Yeah, okay. So
how about you, Dee?
It's the same, basing ourselves off of the 5 pillars that we chose that for our challenge. Absolutely. I think for me, the biggest one would definitely be mental well-being. That's probably the biggest one for me. I think rest is also a huge one. If those two start falling out of line, then I feel like everything else just kind of starts to cripple. So yes, for me, wellness is also finding a balance. And it doesn't necessarily mean everything has to be in a straight line, but it just has to fall within, a good range of stability so that I can continue to be successful in the long run versus having like crashes every 2 to 3 days, mentally and emotionally. With that being said, our general wellness is constantly affected by outside factors. Right now, we are living through a situation that is new to the entire world, pretty much. And with that being said, how do you feel with the temporary closure of the gym, and how has this affected you as a business owner and personally?
Well, personally first, just because that's what we're all talking about. And I think that what's been affected is routine. And for me, the personal well-being is I have a good structure. My wife and I planned out our days so that she can work out on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. And I can go in early on Tuesdays, Thursdays to make sure that that's when I'm working out also. And that has been thrown out the window. The positive is that we're working out together Tuesdays, Thursdays at 4:30.
Right.
However, depending on rain or weather, we've been not as perfect as we'd like to be. When it comes to sleep, we've been sleeping more, I think, than we both talked about last night. We're sleeping more than what we normally would. And we're taking it for granted as a sense of we're able to sleep a little bit more. We're going to bed earlier and sleeping a little later than normal because of not getting up at 5:30 for class or the girls. However, the catch-22 is we have a baby coming in the next
That's right.
4 to 6 weeks. And
Due very soon.
coming up with those sets of measures have been affected. Our diet has been great. We eat out once a week. We've changed our routine, and we now have Friday night as and pick something out of the local hangouts and support somebody. And so there's been some benefits of us on that where we're making stuff at home. The past week and a half, we went to more frozen things than our fresh, and us being aware of that and picking that up has also been an issue because we're not exercising like we're normal. And so it's finding a balance for me personally that keeps my attitude right. I've been able to spend more time at home with my kids, which is awesome. it's also created more anxiety for my business because I don't get to work from the gym or a place. My wife goes into our bedroom and we have an office set up in there for her. I set up out in the living room and try to maintain working while the kids are running around asking all kinds of questions.
Yeah.
Vice versa. So on the weeks that we have a babysitter, I do come in and my anxiety lowers on these weeks. And then next week it'll raise up again because I don't feel I can be as productive as what I'd like to be for the business. That causes more stress for me. And while I say I'm sleeping longer, there's also some sleepless times where I get lost aimlessly, and that's not normally who I am, finding those focus points and re-engaging in what I know needs to get done.
Right. So we could pretty much say that even before we were forced to stay in our homes, our general wellness was, in and out. So maybe you didn't sleep as much before, right? When we were at the gym and we had to work and getting up at 4:30 in the morning to come into the gym. And now that's something that you can take a little more advantage of, the sleeping, but there's other things that are now kind of trickling their way to a lower level. So talking about the 5 pillars that we're trying to work with and help our members improve as a team, that being rest and recovery, hydration, nutrition, exercise, and mental well-being. I'm going to go ahead and ask you on a scale from 1 to 5, 1 being the worst and then 5 being the best. I just tossed the phone. Sorry, guys.
IG Live.
My bad. Where would you be on a scale of 1 to 5? I'm going to go 1 by 1, and you go ahead, take the time you need to kind of figure that out, okay? Rest and recovery.
Right. I mean, 5 with what I just said. It's on point.
Pretty high up there, right? Okay.
It's up there right now.
Rest and recovery. How about hydration?
5.
5. Awesome. What about
Always
nutrition?
drinking water. 4.
Okay.
Good, but it can be improved.
Okay. What about exercise?
4. Maybe
Awesome.
a 3.5, something like that, but I still feel I'm exercising 3 to 4 days a week.
Okay, that's pretty good. And what about mental well-being, your mental health?
4. Being home with the girls has improved and got my family in a good place, but being away has tugged down a little bit. So I think I'm torn on that one.
Okay, so you're not doing too bad. You're on a 4-5, 4-5, which is a pretty good balance, right?
Good.
But some days can be a little
days.
harder than others, right? So
Absolutely.
like you said earlier, you're talking about you have a babysitter this week. So that releases a lot of that anxiety that kind of cripples us, on a daily basis. You're like, okay, I can focus on this. But then when you don't have that babysitter, right? This is an outside factor that if it's put in, eliminated, it kind of just wiggles everything around. Maybe if you don't have a babysitter, you might not be able to squeeze in that workout, right? You might forget to eat your meal in the middle of the day or whatever it might be, right? So you're scaling on the 5 pillars. To me, sounds pretty darn good. How was that score, or how were those scores maybe like a week into quarantine?
Rest was probably a 3. Hydration was still a 5. Nutrition, we were pretty good. I'd say a 4. Exercise, I was actually exercising more early on because I knew my stress was so high, and so that was probably a 5. I made an admission in the first 2 weeks to get that 15 in March of working out to join the list that is so hard, and being home was like my final, oh, we can go do this.
Yeah.
And now getting stuck into it, I think I'll be at 12 or 11 or 12 for this month. And how do we bump that back up is a big thing Rich and I've talked about. Mental well-being, that was probably a 2 or a 3 personally. On the outside, it was a little bit better, but going, what are we going to do? How do we make this work? Putting faith in our team and our staff, our members, the community of what the government's going to do to make this safe and the best decisions that we all knew and what we know right now to continue. And so that took a big beating, but I think that's why the exercise had to jump up so high early on.
Absolutely. Okay, so we can fairly say that you were actively pursuing this goal the entire time. So even when, you know, you were a little stressed out and you felt like things were falling out of place, you quickly put yourself in that mental state to pursue your goal, to find that balance, right? I think we all do naturally. Sometimes it's harder than others, but we're about what, 6 weeks in already? A little over a month?
8.
8 weeks. See, I don't
I think
even
we're
know what
7 or
day.
8. I think we're on week 8.
There we go. So it took us about, well, I'm gonna speak for myself. It took me about 7 weeks to kind of find a balance and fall into a routine and figure how I could be the most productive, you know, with work, and then handling a curriculum for my son. So becoming a teacher and a teacher aide, because God bless these teachers, and keeping, you know, our kids inside. And it's a lot, right? So I think if we were to really think about these pillars, and if we were to think about one of these, just one, your main one probably, if it only took one of these pillars for the rest to collapse, what pillar would that be for you, Paul?
For the rest of the collapse?
Yeah, so normally when we think about pillars, they're holding up something, right? A roof, mind you, and if one gets weak, the others are compensating and working extra hard for that weight that pillar isn't holding. But if you had that one pillar, that if that one crumbled just a little bit, all the others would fall and just everything goes down. What pillar would that be? You said exercise?
For me, it's exercise. Yes.
Okay.
Or I mean, if it's just which one could I let go, I think rest and recovery would be where I'd let go for now, because of knowing I have a baby coming. But when exercise is lost, my diet goes out. My hydration, I don't drink as much because I'm usually eating more salty foods that are holding the water in. And like I said, the anxiety and the control for my mental well-being is far less when I'm actively working out.
Absolutely. Okay. I think for me, it would be rest and recovery for me.
Need that.
And it goes tied in with mental well-being as well. I feel like I have to be solid in that department. Otherwise, everything, like I don't even cook. So one thing that was happening to me at the beginning is I wasn't eating. I was having one meal a day. It was like 8 p.m. and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't had a single meal. And I was just so tired that I was choosing to go to bed over preparing myself a meal, or even ordering. I mean, how long does it take you to order a meal? It requires absolutely no energy. But just the thought of me thinking, okay, by the time the food gets here, by the time I eat it, it's going to be like midnight. I'm going to go to bed. I'll just eat tomorrow morning. And it was something I did for about 2 weeks, and it was not good. Not good at all. So for me, I think it was definitely the rest and recovery that I feel would just, everything would go downhill.
Brings it back.
Absolutely, yeah. So that being said, how do you suggest we make this better? How do you think, what would you tell me, like with rest and recovery, right? If I'm like, you know what, Paul, maybe I've gotten better about eating, right? But I'll be very honest to say that I'm still sleeping at around midnight most of the time, or sometimes a little over midnight. And I'm getting up not as early as I used to when I went to the gym, but it's still not what it used to be before. Before, when I went to work at the gym, I was getting my 7 to 8 hours. So I already had my bedtime, right? And my wake up time. This time I'm going to bed at God knows what time. Sometimes I don't even know what time it is. I have an alarm set. So I just know that if it rings, I have to get up. So I think that's where I'm struggling a little bit. How would you suggest, as my friend, I get better at that?
The first pillar on my thought is finding what it is that's keeping you up so late. Right now, we are much more engaged in social media. We're watching TV. We're
Absolutely.
doing all these additional things that we have the time at home, and coming up with what the measurement is for you and why you need that. If you need to watch until midnight, then heck yes, watch until midnight. But you just told me you need to have 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So that means you can't get up until 7 a.m. or you have to stay till 7:30. My goal of what I do is I set a bedtime timer. Instead of a bedtime alarm, I have a bedtime timer. Apple does an awesome job with that. I don't know what Samsung or the other companies do, but I would assume they all have something to remind you to go to bed. And taking that time, and I would say set it 30 minutes before your actual bedtime you want, so that you can start trickling down whatever those things are that you're doing. So get off your computer, get off your phone, get on the focus of what it is to create your bedtime rhythm. We talk about with our kids, they need routine. How do you start a routine that's going to be bigger? But first things first.
Right. And making small changes
set a timer.
For better habits. Absolutely. Okay, so 30 minutes. My goal is going to be to trickle down by 30 minutes tonight. And then
11:30.
Tomorrow, another 30 minutes. So hopefully by tomorrow I'll be in by 10 p.m. We'll see, but that's a good goal, I think.
Yeah.
Small steps in the right directions.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Even starting with 30 minutes for 5 nights is better. That gains 2.5 hours over the week, right? So
absolutely,
setting yourself up and saying,
like
I want to go to bed at 11:30. Let's get 11:30 down. And how do you feel on that? You feel good? Then try for 11. But to go from 11:30 to 11 to 10:30 to 10 over 4 nights is really hard for us to find a sustainable balance, because we just went and shot over, and all of a sudden it was Saturday night and we were up till midnight and we're like, oh, we failed.
Yeah.
No, you're just gonna get back to 11:30. Get back to the hard number that's your start goal, and then build on that.
Yeah, I can do that. I think I can do that.
I'm excited to find out more.
You'll find out tomorrow.
Right.
All right. Well, the conversation that Paul and I just had, a very just one-on-one natural conversation on the things that we struggled with at the beginning, how better we are doing now, and the things that we did to strengthen these pillars. We're still in the works. Again, we mentioned how outside factors keep affecting how we move around in our pillars, and some of them might come down, some of them might get stronger. It's always a changing. This is what we want to discuss with you in our wellness challenge. This is what we want to do for each other. It is a simple community guideline to bettering our health, bettering just our overall well-being. There is a textbook definition for well-being, but it's very different from how we define it. And again, my strong pillar is different from Paul's, and your strong pillar is going to be different from us as well. And we just want to find that general balance together versus you kind of struggling on your own at home. I think that with this whole physical distancing, it can get a little hard just because we miss each other so much. But we, Nela, the community, has been very strong on keeping the physical distancing, but not the social distancing. So we just want to have you guys remember that. And we want to help you by actively pursuing awareness and making choices towards your overall wellness. And we are here to help with that as a community. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, Paul?
Just join, and there's going to be some things you take and do really well at, and there may be some things that you're going to struggle with. But there's going to be reminders on 3 to 4 days a week potentially that you're going to get something in your mailbox, or a quick reminder from us, an opportunity to go and hang out with us in a call, just to shoot the breeze and see where you're at and check with what's going on. You also may have somebody that's really good at sleep, like Dee Lee, that's her need, and you can learn from them instead of just, I just don't sleep. Well, maybe there's a good parameter of what we can do to experience and share through our community of support. This is not
sometimes all it takes is just the accountability. Having somebody else that like, okay, we're trying to do this together. Sometimes that makes just the most difference. It's like when you come to the gym with a friend and you're like workout buddies, you know, I have to go to class because she's going to be there or he's going to be there. It's the same thing. So we want to generate that same sense of community and accountability for you to succeed. And yes, like Paul said, we will be in touch with you guys throughout the entire 6 weeks and giving you guys little feedback if we need to meet one-on-one like Paul and I are doing, which is something else that work related, Paul and I and the whole team have been doing a lot more, which is something we didn't do so much before. Believe it or not, we were at the gym, we were working at the gym, but we didn't have the amount of communication that we have now, which is kind of ironic. But we are, I think that pillar, that communication pillar for us in our workplace has definitely gotten stronger. And it took all of us to kind of put it in a grain of salt and figure it out. But I think we're doing great. And I think that's one thing that we can share with you guys. I wouldn't have been able to do it without Paul. And Paul, I'm sure, wouldn't have been able to do it without us either. So community right now, I think it's the biggest. And we are here for you. And we want to do this with you. And you're still in time to sign up. We are starting on Friday. The meetup will be on Friday at 11 a.m. The sign up is in the Instagram bio, or Nela Athletics Instagram bio, and it's also on the Facebook group page. There's on the link, yeah. And if you guys have any issues, go ahead and reach out to me. You can even reach out to Paul and we'll just guide you in the right direction. But you're still in time. We have a good handful of people signed up. I'm really excited. So it's up to you. If you want to take this next step, we hope that you will.